First of all, let me thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here this afternoon to be part of this very, very important occasion. I want to extend greetings to the CCAC family, our public officials, and stakeholders from business, labor unions, and other organizations, and also to members of our trustee, our educational foundation, and our alumni association boards. I want to extend specific thanks to Leo Gerard, my good friend, international president of the international president of the Steelworkers, for helping to make the Secretary's visit a reality. I'm also grateful for the individuals who planned the proceedings, developed the marketing and PR, and who prepared the physical space for this event today. We have such an august body in this auditorium, but I would be remiss if I did not recognize our speakers and say a few just brief points about them before they are introduced formally. All of you know our U.S. Secretary of Labor, the Honorable Hilda L. Solis. I don't know if you know this about her, however. This is her third visit to Pittsburgh in the last 2 years. And each one of those visits have dealt with or considered some aspect of CCAC and the labor movement. Her initial visit was at the West Hill Center, where she had an opportunity to take a look at some of the program offerings that we have there. Her second visit was with the Hill House Association to tout the virtues of partnerships through the H-1B training program that the Department of Labor is instrumental in. And of course, her third visit is today as part of the Robert Mill Labor Management Institute and lecture series. We also have two individuals who are with us today who are our featured speakers, who have done a great deal not only for CCAC but for the community in general. Many of you know Morgan O'Brien. Morgan serves as president and CEO of Peoples Natural Gas. He has, for us, demonstrated the value of partnering and training through some of his efforts, and many of you know also that he serves as a member of our Imagine and Achieve campaign steering committee. Mike Dunleavy is no stranger to you all. He is the business manager and financial secretary of IBEW, but as important, he has been instrumental in developing a partnership with CCAC for individuals, to train individuals from communities throughout greater Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Labor and Management, past and future, is designed to enhance the understanding and recognition of the large role labor unions and labor relations have played in forming our great region. It recognizes Robert M. Mill, a graduate and honorary degree recipient from CCAC, a champion of the benefits of accessible education, and an ardent supporter of union needs. As you know, CCAC is one of the key partners for industry and the trades in our region, educating residents for the family-sustaining careers of today and the future, and helping to create the skilled workforce that our Commonwealth needs in order to promote its continued economic vitality. CCAC remains closely tied to the county we serve. In fact, 95% of our career program graduates remain in our region to live and work upon graduation. And of course, in a time of dwindling local support for Pennsylvania's community colleges, Allegheny County in particular has steadfastly maintained its commitment to CCAC. This has taken courage and foresight on the part of our county government. And with that, I want to, and I'm pleased to introduce the Honorable Rich Fitzgerald, who you know is the Allegheny County Executive, who has long been a staunch supporter of our college. He will share a few words of welcome, and then he will be joined on the stage by the Honorable William Russell Robinson, who serves as chair of our trustee board and also a member of County Council. and he, of course, will be followed by Bob Mill and Leo Gerard, who will introduce our keynote and featured speakers. Once again, thank you so much for your time today. And with that, I'm going to ask Rich to come up.
Dr. Johnson, thank you, and thank you for the great work that you do on behalf of this region and this community. We are so proud of our community college system, our community college of Allegheny County, and the work that they have done over the years. And it's so emblematic that we're delighted to have the secretary here, as she's, comes here often, as we know, because she really is a partner of ours in investing in the future and investing in our workforce development. And I think it's great, that we're going to have today, Morgan O'Brien and Mike Dunleavy, who really embody what this region utilizes to its strength, and that is where all of our institutions, business and labor, academia, our healthcare, our manufacturers, our IT, our movie industry, our financial sector, all coming together for the betterment of this region. And as we know, we're starting to all find out how well we are doing versus the rest of the country when it comes to job growth and opportunities. And the census data even showed last week how more young people are now moving in to Allegheny County than moving out. And we're excited about that. We're excited about what's happening. But we realize that there are challenges ahead, challenges that deal with how do we make sure we have the workers that are trained to fill the jobs that are out there. And I can tell you, as county executive, I go every single day and meet with many companies around this county, and the one thing I hear over and over again is, yeah, we're going to be providing 20 jobs next year, 50 jobs over the next 3 years, 100 jobs over the next 4 years, but we need to make sure that they are trained, that they have the skill set they need to make them competitive. And it's a job of all of ours, working together with labor, with business, with our community college, with our trade schools, with all the institutions of higher learning to make sure we continue that path. And I'm so delighted that the secretary is here because she and the Obama administration have been great partners and great advocates and great leaders in leading us out of this recession that we've been, kind of coming out of the last few years. And we're proud of it here in Pittsburgh because we're the only urban area that has gotten back all of its jobs and all of its vacancies in downtown since the Great Recession. And that's something we can all be very, very proud of. So as we welcome the secretary and thank her for her leadership, and again with Mike and Morgan and the other partners that we have here today, elected officials at all levels of government, state, federal, local, county, et cetera, we look forward to continuing this momentum forward. With that, I'm going to introduce one of my former colleagues, County Councilman Bill Robinson, who's the president of the Board of Trustees. And Bill has done a terrific job and continues to advocate on behalf of the college and on behalf of the workforce development and the citizens of Allegheny County. He wants to do a few opening remarks and welcoming the secretary. Councilman?
Good afternoon, and I want to thank Rich Fitzgerald, our Chief Executive, for the opportunity to speak to you just very briefly. As you know, I'm not a person who's brief. But in 2012, I promised to be briefer, and I'm going to do that. Each time we have this Bob Mill lecture series, there are more people in this audience than the time before. Each time. So I thank all of you coming out to honor my friend and colleague, Bob Mill. Bob and I have grown as friends for over a period of time, yeah. Bob is the #1 cheerleader for the community college. I'm #2. This is the first time Bob has to follow me. That I appreciate the fact she's been to our college, to our community 3 times. I believe that she knows what I know. We're a very good community college. and I thank her for coming 3 times. We're on our way to greatness. On a lighter note, when I was introduced by Bob to the secretary, she handed me a pen, a commemorative pen. And I looked at the pen, and I took the pen. I said, "You have a check for us?" She said, "Already sent the check." I said, "Thank you. I take your word." I want to also say to the secretary, I had occasion to see her on TV this week at the National Action Network Convention of Washington, D.C. I won't put any butter on her toast, but she did a great job of showing not only compassion for workers in this country, but the foresight to realize that community colleges have to be an integral part of developing the workforce for the future. You see, I love the community college. Love every blade of grass, everybody that's here. And whether I'm here or not, this college needs to be in the leadership of training the workforce. Those of you who are here who are in labor leaders know the history of our region in terms of labor unions, labor period. And there's no good reason that we should not be in the forefront of revitalizing not only this region, but revitalizing regions across the country. So I thank all the labor leaders who are here with us today. Without further ado, I want to bring on my good friend, the #1 cheerleader for the community college, Bob Mill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate those kind words. I am overwhelmed by the number of people here today. Thank you very much for being here. It's a real blessing to have you here, and we knew that we would get the right speakers. The people will come, and so far we have sold out every one. This is the first time we've done standing room only. So, congratulations, congratulate yourself. Thank you, appreciate that. This is the third in the lecture series. Our first one started out with our good friend Leo Gerard and John Surma, and then that was followed quickly by Nick DeOlios from Consol and Richard Trumka from the AFL-CIO, and certainly now today with Mike Dunleavy, Morgan O'Brien, and certainly the Secretary Solis. Thank you so much for being here today. I've said this every time we've gotten together, but I think that labor management relations in Western Pennsylvania and in Allegheny County in particular is a regional asset. As much as the zoo, as much as any of those ballparks, what's happened here is different than anywhere in the country. And the reason why, as we do start to come out of this recession and the comments that the county executive made, we are the first out. And a lot of it is because our labor management relationships have been so exquisite. They are a regional asset, and you must believe that. I want to take just a moment to recognize the people that helped put this together. We won't do it by name. We want to leave that time for the speakers. So would the members of the advisory committee please stand up, or if you're standing already, raise your hand, please. There. Let's see. I can tell you that's a very impressive group. Let me, for those of you who don't already know the story of how this all came about, what we're trying to do. A couple of years ago, Alex asked me if the college could honor me with an endowed chair. I said to him, yeah, that would be fine. He asked me what course of study I'd like it in, and I said, in labor management studies. And he said, well, we don't have labor management studies. And I said, what's your point? And so here we are today. And the college has really gotten behind my dream that we bring this organization together. What we did is to start out with this lecture series to get interest in what will come is the CCAC Labor Management Institute. And the Institute is well on its way. We're getting ready to start classes. Hopefully, keep our fingers crossed that the next academic session in September, we'll be able to start classes. And that's under the careful direction of Jackie Cavalier. Jackie, would you stand up? She's putting together a lot of the programs, the classes. And she's getting some extra prodding from our good friend, Dr. Charles McAllister. And that brings me to the final part of my comments. This all takes money. And the last time I spoke to you, we were in the process of raising some money. And I'm here to tell you today that so far toward the $1 million goal that we've set to endow the chair and to start the Institute, we reached $600,000. And if you haven't contributed yet, I will find you. And now, to get on to the program, I would like to introduce my good friend, Leo Gerard. Leo has been tremendous for this organization, for this college, for this community, for this country. I kid him all the time about the fact that he's Canadian. And there's a great joke that goes along with that, which I cannot tell in this room because my wife is here and she's told me not to tell that joke. So I want to bring to the podium now the International President of the United Steelworkers, Mr. Leo Gerard.
Bob just said, I'll tell you that joke later. He probably can't remember it at his age. Let me just say before I introduce the Secretary that I was actually honored and humbled when I was asked by the folks to be on the advisory committee of this new program. One of the things that I find so impressive, I've been in the Pittsburgh area 19 years now since I first came. And one of the things that I find so impressive, and maybe it comes from the years of hard times we went through in the late 70s and 80s, when we saw deindustrialization come to this area almost before anywhere else in the country. What I found so impressive is the collective desire to make sure that everybody in southwestern Pennsylvania succeeds. Whether we're revitalizing the downtown, whether we're building the greenest convention center, whether we're building new sports stadiums, whether we're retrofitting hotels and modernizing downtown office complexes, what I've been able to see is, in particular, our building trades, the financial community, management, work together with a vision and be able to deliver products that were made with union labor, on time and under budget, and setting up a new model for the rest of the country to follow. And to have been asked to be part of the advisory committee, for me, was a very humbling experience, and I want to thank Bob and Dr. Johnson for asking me, and I appreciate it very much. It's now again a humbling privilege to introduce someone who I admire tremendously. The Secretary of Labor, Secretary Hilda L. Solis, was confirmed as Secretary of Labor on February 24, 2009. And as I read her bio, I saw that she had been nominated by President Obama on January the 20th, 2009. And I started thinking about how hard it is to get through the nomination process sometimes. The fact that the Secretary made it through that nomination so quickly is a testimony to the amount of respect that her colleagues had on both sides of the aisle that she got her nomination through in that bit of time. And it's, again, important to recognize that she represented the 32nd Congressional District in California, a position she held from 2001 to 2009. In 2007, not yet Secretary, but Hilda Solis was appointed to the Commission on Security and Cooperation in Europe, the Helsinki Commission, as well as the Mexico-United States Interparliamentary Group. In June 2007, Secretary Solis was elected Vice Chair of the Helsinki Commission, General Committee on Democracy, Human Rights, and Humanitarian Questions. She was the only and the first U.S. elected official to serve in this commission. She is nationally recognized leader on environment. She became the first woman to receive the John F. Kennedy Profiling Courage Award. Secretary Solis was first elected to public office in 1985 as the member of the Rio Hondo Community College, so she has a community college link in her background. And she made history by becoming the first Latina elected to the California State House. As chairwoman of the California State Industrial Relations Committee, she led the battle to increase the state's minimum wage from $4.25 to $5.75. She authored a record 17 state laws aimed at combating domestic violence. She is a graduate of the California State Polytechnical University and a Master of Public Administration from the University of Southern California. As I said earlier, she was nominated by President Obama on January the 20th, and she was confirmed on February 24th. Please welcome the Secretary of Labor, our friend, the friend of all workers, Secretary Hilda Solis.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. It's wonderful to be back here in Allegheny County. And just let me start by thanking my good friend and colleague. I call him a colleague because we've been doing so much work for the last 3 years. And that's my good friend, Leo Gerard. What an amazing introduction. Thank you so much. But you too are a leader in your own realm and known by many people nationally and internationally. If you want to know how to build a model labor management partnership, you ask Leo. He's the guy to make it happen. For nearly a quarter century, Leo's union has been working side by side with major steel companies. Together, they've created 70 different career development programs and learning centers across this great country. It's a great example of an industry that's investing in its own. Rather than looking for highly skilled workers to hire, the steel industry is creating these workers from within its own rank. Leo has made educational benefits for his members a cornerstone of his contract negotiations. And now we're seeing steel workers receiving training in everything from plumbing to engine repair to geothermal training for new green jobs. I talk a lot as Labor Secretary about how important it is that workers have a seat at the table. Well, Leo, he's used his seat to forge partnerships with management and to invest in cutting-edge training initiatives. So, first and foremost, I want to thank my brother, Leo, and please ask you to give him a round of applause as well. I also want to thank Dr. Johnson for his leadership here at CCAC, and I also want to recognize Robert Mill for everything that you've done for this college. Robert, they tell me you were a member of this school's first ever graduating class, and you were the first ever student body president back in 1966. And I understand that they call you Mr. CCAC, and I guess I'll call you that too, if that's okay. Because no one has ever done more to help this school and this community adapt to the 21st century economy. So thank you for that. Round of applause. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge his wife, Candace, who is here, who's joined us, for her incredible work with the school's foundation. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you. It's because of great leaders like both of you that Allegheny County is in such a great position right now. And I want to thank also Morgan O'Brien and all of our industry leaders that are present here today. Your focus on state-of-the-art worker training is making a tremendous difference here in Greater Pittsburgh and across this country. Here's an amazing statistic, folks. Joint labor management apprenticeships have leveraged more than $750 million in private sector investment. That's a remarkable number. And I have to brag on IBEW because this union runs some of the most successful apprenticeship programs anywhere in this country. So I want to personally thank Michael Dunleavy of IBEW Local 5 for your union's leadership. Michael, I have to tell you, I visited more IBEW apprenticeship programs all over this country. And I can tell you, they have a wonderful track record. I know that because I saw it firsthand in my own state, in Los Angeles County, in my state of California. Your union is not only giving workers the skills to succeed, but you're giving them the appropriate job training that they need to stay safe on the job as well. So I want to thank you personally for that. And finally, I want to acknowledge all of our union members. By the way, is labor in the house? IBEW, the carpenters, our operating engineers, and our sheet metal workers, our iron workers and plumbers are all of our union friends. And I want to thank each and every one of you. Thanks to all of you for never giving up. No matter how hard the fight has been, you've never given up. And I know that it's been hard. But we've come a long way since the bottom fell out of our economy back in 2008. When I became the labor secretary 3 years ago, our economy was in a free fall. The financial system was on the verge of a meltdown. Entire industries were being threatened, and credit was frozen. People's retirement savings were in jeopardy. The middle-class workers didn't know whether they were going to get a paycheck or a pink slip. In Washington, we heard a lot of different ideas about who was to blame and what it would take to put us on the road to recovery. Some people argued that in a time of rapid globalization, America could either have economic growth or we could have strong labor unions, but not both. They said to compete against countries where workers had no rights, we had to take away the rights of our own. They wanted to win a new race to the bottom. Fortunately for us, President Barack Obama understood that organized labor helped to create the American middle class. This administration knew labor and management could sit across the table and retool themselves together. And they could do it while protecting the bottom line. And that bottom line is workers on the assembly line. And thanks to the policies of this administration, we've now created 4 million private sector jobs. The unemployment rate has fallen from double digits back down to 8.2% last month. The manufacturing sector alone has created over 470,000 jobs since January of 2010. And of course, you know this best, the auto industry has been saved. The auto workers and the big three have shown us that anything's possible when management and labor put their heads together and collaborate. Today, GM is back on top as the #1 automaker in the world, and with the highest profits in its 100-year history. Chrysler is growing faster in America than any other car company. Ford is investing billions of dollars in American plants and factories. All told, the auto industry has added more than 200,000 new jobs over the past 2 years and a half. And they're not just building cars again, they're building better cars that are highly efficient. We're putting in place the toughest fuel economy standards in history for our cars and pickups. That means cars will now average nearly 55 miles per gallon by the middle of the next decade, almost double what they get today. American auto companies have succeeded by working with and not against their unionized workforce. Industry succeeds when labor sits at the table with management and ideas are shared. The big lesson of the auto industry's turnaround was summed up pretty well by Bob King, the president of UAW. He said, and I quote, "The public is looking at us now to see if we've learned anything from the crisis or if we'll return to business as usual," unquote. He said, "Our union has learned many lessons from the crisis. The 21st century UAW views management not as the enemy, but as a partner. That's the right approach. When labor and management play on the same team, they are unbeatable." I've seen this in my own life. Some of my earliest memories were of trying to get workers and management on the same page. Some of you know my father was a shop steward for the Teamsters in a battery recycling plant. When I was in the 9th grade, my dad would come home at the end of the day and ask me to sit down with him at the kitchen table. From his pockets, he would pull out pieces of paper with writing in Spanish on them. They were notes given to him by coworkers. There were all sorts of things scribbled on them, grievances about health and safety practices at the plant, and ideas about how to improve the efficiency and productivity on the line. He'd ask me to translate them into English for him. At first, I didn't quite understand. What did I know? I was only 14 years old. When I asked, he explained to me they were the voices of workers. He said that the paper scraps started a conversation between the union and management. He told me it was a way to get them together at the bargaining table. I've often recalled those talks with my father, because today we're recovering from one of the greatest economic crises since the Depression. And our long-term prosperity depends on working together to train new workers for the 21st century. And that's my #1 priority as the Labor Secretary. Much of our political debate today is focused on creating jobs. The challenge is foremost on my mind. But creating jobs is only part of the puzzle. We must do more to help job seekers land good jobs that are already open. Even at a time of 8.2% unemployment, there are still 3 million unfilled job openings across this country. Think about it, 3 million jobs unfilled right now. That's pretty incredible. When I talk with employers today, many complain about the skills mismatch. Sometimes the problem is that local workers don't have what we call the STEM skills they're looking for: science, technology, engineering, and math. We need more experts in these disciplines to succeed in the high-tech 21st century economy. So my department is working with community colleges, with vocational technical schools, and the state workforce agencies. And we're collaborating with industry partners and community-based organizations. And we're taking our apprenticeship model and growing it into new areas and new industries. The jobs of today and the jobs of tomorrow will require new skills and new training. There's an old saying that goes like this: you're never too old to stop learning. Well, that has never been more true than today. Over the next decade, nearly half of all U.S. job openings will be for middle-skill jobs. These are positions that require more than a high school diploma, but less than a 4-year college degree. These are white-collar, blue-collar, and what I call green-collar jobs that pay family sustainable wages, and they provide pathways to better-paying careers in every sector of our economy. Last year, I hosted a very special event on the National Mall in the nation's capital. We celebrated 100 years of registered apprenticeship programs. I've often called this program one of America's best-kept secrets. But thanks to many of the unions and industry leaders represented here today, the secret is finally getting out. Last year, more than 400,000 Americans were pursuing a career by participating in one of 25,000 registered apprenticeship programs across this country. And employers tell me they need skilled welders. They tell me they need good, skilled electricians. They tell me that they need these kinds of people with these hard skills. But young people, especially in manufacturing, don't get to tinker the way they used to. These days, everything is what they call modular. When something breaks, an entire circuit board is simply replaced. So these apprenticeships give workers a chance to get hands-on instruction from a mentor, and they give workers a paycheck while they're at it. We call it learn while you earn. In this tough economy, it's so critical for companies to invest in skills training for their workers and to help their workers make ends meet while they learn. Apprenticeships should be the people that build the 21st century roads and high-speed rail in this country. They should be the ones installing solar panels and other green and innovative technologies. Apprenticeships are an incredible example of what can be achieved when the private sector, the public sector, and organized labor can come together. Here in Allegheny County alone, there are nearly 100 different registered apprenticeship programs. Thousands of local workers are currently part of a registered apprenticeship program supported by my Department of Labor. Once they graduate, they have a credential that nobody can take away, and graduates earn anywhere from $50,000 a year or more. We know these programs can be very competitive, so my department is also encouraging partnerships run by community-based organizations that prepare workers to participate in these apprenticeship programs. One here in Pittsburgh is called New Century Careers. They've trained 1,000 Pennsylvanians for entry-level manufacturing jobs. They've helped another 7,000 existing manufacturing employees upgrade their skills. Their program begins at the local high school. They begin by engaging the minds of our young people. They just hosted a competition where young people learn all about advanced manufacturing in a new way. The young people create robots that battle each other in a gladiator-style competition. Students learn about problem solving, innovation, and working as a team. And they have a lot of fun trying to create the toughest robot in town. New Century Careers goes into the inner city to recruit young minorities and women to get them excited about careers in advanced manufacturing. My department knows how important it is to have well-trained and qualified workers here in Carbide Valley. The work being done here with powered metals is in our vital national interest. We know that the products being made here are used in defense applications, satellites, medical devices, and telecommunications. These jobs cannot be outsourced to other countries, and I like that. They require highly skilled workers, and they need to be able to attend first-rate colleges just like this. So I want to close my remarks by talking a little bit about the role of community colleges like CCAC. I know about the great promise of our nation's community college system because one of the first elected office I held for 8 years was as a trustee at the Rio Hondo Community College Board. I know there's so much talent in our community college system, and sometimes the community colleges indeed are the gateway for so many people who can't afford to get a higher education at a four-year university. They're at the center right now of President Barack Obama's strategy to help every American receive at least 1 year of post-secondary education. The administration has proposed an $8 billion community college to career fund. And under the President's plan, our community colleges will work with their industry partners to develop training programs that meet the needs of local job creators. This means investing in world-class facilities and labs and in outstanding professors. It creates internships and apprenticeships to give workers real-world experience no matter what income level they come from. I recently went on a cross-country bus tour, you may have heard about it, with Dr. Jill Biden to see the innovative partnerships happening at our local community colleges. In Dayton, Ohio, we visited a healthcare company where the local community college and IUE CAW, they're training union members to manufacture life-saving medical devices. In Western Kentucky, apprenticeship plumbers and steam fitters were partnering with community colleges to learn how to install green plumbing systems and solar heating panels. We stopped in Renault State Community College outside of Oak Ridge National Lab in Tennessee. Some of the brightest minds in the country are hard at work creating low-density carbon fiber that can be used to operate everything from airplanes to pickup trucks to wind turbines. This carbon fiber can help reduce our dependency on foreign oil. If they succeed, they will help preserve our planet, save customers a fortune in fuel costs, and put local residents back to work. And they could also make the Tennessee Valley a global leader in this cutting-edge field. Folks, that's what's at stake here. If we invest in our greatest asset, and I say it is our greatest asset, the American worker, there's no challenge that we can't meet. That's why what's happening here at CCAC is so very important. That's why the apprenticeship programs you're leading are such an important priority for this administration and for this Secretary of Labor. And that's why I'm happy to be here to say, keep up the great work. If we can replicate what's happening right here in Allegheny County, then we can rebuild the 21st century for everyone here in this great country of ours, the United States of America. I want to thank you, and God bless you, and God bless America.
Ain't that a great Secretary of Labor? Those of you that have one of the red folders, inside that folder you should see a little card like this. That card is so that you can put down a question that you may have, and at the end of the three speakers, someone on the end of the rows will pick up the cards. We probably won't have time for all the questions, so in particular, if you want a shot at it, write it so it can be read. It's now my pleasure. In fact, I just said to Mike Dunleavy, except for the Secretary and I, this looks like a little Irish connection here. That it's my pleasure to introduce the current President of Peoples Natural Gas. In fact, you provide the gas for my house. Keep it coming, man. Morgan O'Brien, in February of 2010, was named President and Chief Executive Officer of Peoples Natural Gas Company. It serves 359,000 customers in 16 counties in southwestern Pennsylvania. But prior to joining Peoples Gas, Morgan served as President and CEO of Duquesne Light Holding from September 2001 to January 2010. Well, at Duquesne Light, under his leadership, the utility invested more than $500 million in the region's electrical infrastructure to replace aging equipment and to assure service reliability. Morgan O'Brien joined Duquesne Light in 1991, holding several senior executive positions before becoming CEO. Prior to his tenure at Duquesne, he served in various management capacities at PNC Bank and major accounting firms. Morgan O'Brien is a Pittsburgh native. He's got a bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's degree in taxation from Robert Morris University. He serves on the board, and he's on the board of trustees of not only his alma mater, but Penn State. He serves on the board of Pennsylvania Energy Association, the United Way of Allegheny, the Allegheny Conference on Community Development, and him and his wife Kathy have 4 children, and he actually helps to revitalize downtown Pittsburgh because he's living there. So Morgan, come on up.
And a few kids in the neighborhood. So let me first thank both Alex and Bob for the opportunity today. I did want to share with Secretary Solis, I do have a common characteristic. I come from an immigrant parent as well. My father came over from Ireland, so we've got the Irish roots here if we have an uprising later. And a couple things that I'll always remember that my father taught me. And a couple of those things were that when you have workers who are complaining or upset, a lot of times that means that they care about what's going on. And I also remembered he taught me that you learn more when you listen than when you speak. So I apologize for speaking and not listening today. But I remember at age 41, I became president and CEO at Duquesne Light Company. And I was as excited as a person could be in my hometown, the son of an Irish immigrant, you know, reaching a pretty important role in the business community and in the region. And I remember all of a sudden I became incredibly scared of failing. And I remembered some of the basic things that my father taught me, and I tried to apply that in how we ran the company at the time. I remember I spent the first couple weeks out in the field meeting with my workers, asking them a really simple question. What is it that you know that if I knew would help this company be successful? And I remember sitting in a garage here in the north side, actually, and one of our veteran workers came over to me and said, "Do you really mean what you say, that you're trying to solve problems and make things better?" And I said, "Absolutely." And he said, "Take a look around this room. You're the youngest person in the room. If I were you, I wouldn't sleep at night knowing that." I came back, and I remember meeting with my executive team and said, we really need to work hard at bringing new blood into the company. And the first thing we did, which hopefully ties into today's discussion, is we came to Allegheny Community College and Alex and his team and said, we need to get younger people and some new blood into the company. And within 6 months, Alex and his team had put together a program that actually trained people to become linemen. And that became an incredible, thank you. It became an incredible feeder system for the company. And that was obviously an important lesson for me. As Leo mentioned, 2 years ago I left Duquesne Light, which was a very difficult decision, but I had the opportunity to come to Peoples Natural Gas, which is obviously another local utility. And this quick story on Peoples, it was a division of a company that had been acquired and moved their headquarters to Richmond, Virginia. I had the privilege and honor of bringing that corporate headquarters back to Pittsburgh. And I remember one of the things that the company had done is they made an economic decision that outsourcing the call center to a place far away where labor was cheap and probably not a lot of benefits was cheaper for the company. We made a decision to bring that call center back here to Pittsburgh. It's actually here on the North Shore. And the business case was pretty simple, that if you have a group of people who care about what they do, they'll provide a better service, and at the end of the day, that will be cheaper. And that's been working, and we're pretty proud of that. The new challenge we have is that we've got, similar to Duquesne Light, we have an aging workforce with, in case you haven't heard, a lot going on in the natural gas industry. I left Duquesne for the opportunity to try to have some positive impact on this region with that incredible asset, the Marcellus Shale, that we have. I truly believe that the biggest renaissance this region has ever seen is sitting before us. And the challenge for us as business leaders, as union leadership, and as institutions, and really as government leaders, is that we need to have the workforce that can serve that need. And I know from my days at Duquesne Light, I remember going to city high schools and going around the region and talking to folks about coming into a trade job and becoming plumbers, electricians, and carpenters. And somewhere along the way, when we were going through our last renaissance in this region, we defined educational success as going to college. And I remember sitting with leaders and they'd say, this program is incredibly effective. 99% of the kids go to college. And I would sit there and say, maybe they shouldn't all go to college. And where are the jobs? Maybe some of those kids should be in trade schools and learning valuable skills that have a very valuable career opportunity ahead of them. And that today is one of the biggest challenges for folks like myself. We just recently, based on an old formula, signed an agreement with Community College where we're starting a program here at Community to bring more gas workers into Peoples Natural Gas. This year, we're going to be hiring over 100 new gas workers, and Community College is a big part of that. The challenge, though, is that next year I'll be hiring more people. And where does that workforce come from? I mean, clearly, I think the community college partnership is incredibly successful, and it's one that we know will work. We know it'll get us the successful applicants that we need. But this is a region where U.S. Steel is investing $500 million in its steel system here in western Pennsylvania. Allegheny Ludlam is building a new steel plant of over $1 billion, and Leo and Rob and all the leaders in the state have announced a cracker facility coming to this region as well. With that is going to come thousands and thousands of job needs. And so for all of us who are in this community and look at the challenges we have, I honestly think our biggest challenge is having a workforce big enough to meet the needs of what we have coming to us in the future. And so as I came here at Peoples Natural Gas, excited about this incredible opportunity with Marcellus Gas and all the energy that we're going to have. This is the second largest gas reserve on the planet Earth, and we're sitting on top of it. And what that means is that manufacturers need to be in this region closest to the energy source to be able to take the best advantage of it. We need more energy produced from this natural gas, and we obviously need the workers that are going to be here to really make that executable. So with the Secretary's leadership and the union leadership that we have here, and clearly the support of the community college as an incredible asset, I'm incredibly excited about our future, and I do think we'll be able to meet all those challenges. Thank you.
Thanks, Morgan. It's, again, my privilege to introduce someone who I admire tremendously, and I think he's one of the leading trade unionists in southwestern Pennsylvania. I've come to know him well, and I consider him a very close friend. Michael Dunleavy began his affiliation with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union Number 5, in 1975. I suspect he was still in high school or something, I don't know. Working summers as a helper while attending West Virginia University. Michael was officially sworn in as an IBEW member in 1980, and he worked in the industry as a journeyman, wireman, and foreman. Michael first held local union office as a member of the executive board. He went on to serve as secretary of the board, recording secretary, local union president, assistant business manager, and he currently holds the office of business manager and financial secretary for his local union, IBEW Local Union Number 5. Additionally, he has served on the Three Rivers Workforce Investment Board, the United Way Board of Directors, the Port of Pittsburgh Commission, Sports and Exhibition Authority Board, member of Allegheny County Council Executive Board, Pittsburgh Building Trades, State Building Trades, State Electrical Workers, Tri-State Business Managers Association, Chairman of the Western 3rd District Business Managers Association, Builders Guild of Western PA, Executive Board of the Pennsylvania State AFL-CIO. He also chairs Western Pennsylvania Electrical Workers Joint Apprenticeship and Training Committee, Pension, Insurance, and Deferred Compensation Trust Funds, IBEW Local Union Number 5 Political Action Committee. Mike resides in Bethel Park with his wife of 30 years, and they have 3 children. With all those jobs, I don't know when the hell he found time to make those kids. Anyways, Michael Dunleavy.
Okay, let me begin by acknowledging Secretary Solis, Dr. Johnson, Mr. CCAC, Bob Mill, County Executive Rich Fitzgerald, Representative Bill Robinson, and my favorite union leader, but I'm going to have to add the caveat, who's from Canada, or else Ed Hill will get upset with me. So I'm going to say my favorite union leader from Canada, Leo Gerard. I'd like to thank you all for this opportunity of addressing you today. Earlier, you just heard my bio read by Leo, but I always prefer to be characterized simply as a journeyman wireman electrician. When I went through my apprenticeship training at CCAC here on the campus down at the Annex over 30 years ago, an electrician was required to go through 8,000 hours of on-the-job training, to attend class 2 nights a week, 4 hours a night, and you did that for 4 years. At the conclusion, you became a journeyman wireman, and I thought I was highly trained and I didn't need to know a single other thing the remainder of my career. Now, let me point out at that time, computers took up entire rooms. There was no such thing as a cell phone, and the color green was strictly a color. It wasn't an industry. Well, fast forward to 2012. It now takes 10,000 hours of on-the-job training. It takes 8 hours a week for 5 years of classroom training, plus specialties such as confined space, hazmat training, solar, fiber optic, teledata, and a myriad of advanced post-journeyman training. My point in referencing the changes in our training is that our strategy for training for jobs in a dynamic economy is very simple, and the success of that strategy has been borne out over time. Our two-step strategy, simply put, is to establish and maintain the ability and flexibility to implement worker training programs, while at the same time instilling a culture of career-long learning. We've established the ability to quickly draft and put into place educational programs by developing relationships with distinguished educational institutions such as CCAC, and on the national level, such as the University of Michigan. We've established an apprenticeship training committee comprised of business owners and labor representatives. Our instructors are a combination of CCAC educators and experienced journeyman wiremen that have gone on to get certifications in instruction. Employers, workers, educators, and union representatives all have input into the curriculum. The apprenticeship committee and training directors meet monthly to discuss the program and plan for its future. When you discuss continuing training of that quality, it's required to of a quality that's required to maintain a competitive workforce. The expense of that training is always a consideration. In our industry, the cost of training is equally shared by the employers and the workers, because they share equally in all the benefits of that training. As a matter of fact, contractors and employees agree that in the long run, education does not cost you anything. It generates opportunities for employers and workers alike, and therefore makes money for both. The budget for training is established by the Apprenticeship Training Committee, and the funding is collectively bargained. Currently, for every hour worked in the industry, 90 cents is put back into training. So you can see the more work opportunities, the more man hours, therefore the more money to support the never-ending need for education. Incentivizing a culture of adaptability and lifelong learning is simply a matter of creating more work opportunities. The more education you have, the more opportunities there are for work. Our members that are looking for work sign a list and are dispatched out in order. Our Labor Management Committee, the same committee comprised of employers and work representatives that determines the training distribution, also determines a list of specialties that allow you to be called out for work out of order off of the list. The more education and specialties you have, the more work opportunities you get. Let me offer a real-world example. Recently at U.S. Steel, there was a project concluded at the Clairton Coke Works. Prior to the start of the project, investigation by our employers revealed that the project would include the need to pull, splice, and terminate a specific type of high-voltage cable. Our Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee recognized the need to train an adequate number of journeyman wiremen to perform this work. The committee, along with the training director, established what training was needed and implemented that training. There was an agreement amongst labor and management that this was a specialty worthy of priority selection from our out-of-work list. The workers are made aware of this opportunity and volunteer to come in for the additional training because they know opportunities will come forward for work. When they are employed at this specialty, again, 90 cents of every hour goes back into training, therefore continuing to underwrite the cost of education. This process can be repeated for future individual projects, such as the cracker facility, or for entire industries, such as shale gas. In referencing our two-pronged strategy for training and career learning, you will notice that labor and management work cooperatively to ensure a successful outcome. The committee that determines our curriculum, that decides which certifications get priority, and that determines funding, are all comprised equally of labor representatives and company owners. The Pittsburgh region, whether deserved or not, had developed a reputation for being a tough labor market. The exact opposite is true in the electrical construction industry. We have not had a work stoppage in 34 years that I have been involved with the IBEW. As a matter of fact, we have contract language that says we will not strike. If there's disagreement, both sides agree to abide by the decision of the Council on Industrial Relations, which is comprised of equal parts labor and management representation. So in conclusion, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union Number 5, along with our employer partners, have been training electricians for decades. Our training model and two-pronged strategy for preparing for jobs in a dynamic economy and for providing members with skills that increase their opportunities for employment has been so successful that members of the British Parliament and politicians, such as the President, have come from across the country to visit our facility. Our simple strategy of establishing the ability and flexibility to implement training programs on short notice and to incentivize a culture of career-long learning within that workforce has increased opportunities and has positioned us well for providing for the workforce in the Pittsburgh region that is prepared for an ever-changing economy. Thank you very much for this opportunity of addressing you today.
Michael, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bill Flanagan. I am going to be the moderator for the Q&A portion of this conversation. For those of you who don't know me, I have a day job running corporate relations for the Allegheny Conference on Community Development, which is an economic development organization. I also serve on the steering committee for this program. I also moonlight on Sundays as host of Our Region's Business on WPXI TV. So I think the real reason they asked me to moderate this portion is because I'm an old TV news guy, and in TV news you learn to live and die by the second. So my primary role is to keep this on time and to make sure we all have time for the reception after the conversation. Everybody should have cards. They were in your packet if you got one of those red folders when you came in. And what we're going to ask you all to do is just fill out a card with a question, put it on the card. We've got folks working the room. Hold them up, wave them or whatever, and somebody will be around to pick them up. They will bring them up here to me. I will try to sort them, and we'll work in as many of the questions as we have time for in the roughly 30 minutes or so that we have for the conversation. But I guess as the moderator, I'll take the liberty of starting out with because you all touched on it to one degree or another, and that's the issue of the skills gap. I mean, Secretary Solis, you talked about millions of open jobs in the United States. Morgan O'Brien, thousands of open jobs we know here in southwestern Pennsylvania. We're tracking them on our website, imaginepittsburgh.com. We got 10,000 open jobs. So what's going on here? Do people not have any interest? Do they lack the ability? Or is there just not accessibility to the kind of training and education that they need to get these jobs? Madam Secretary, we'll start with you.
Well, I would say that we are trying to do a better job of matching employers with our training programs, and this campus is a good example of how to do that, because we've given up with the notion that you just teach for a degree and the degree doesn't go anywhere. We think, and the President believes, that what we need to do is make sure that we have businesses in partnership with our community colleges so the curriculum reflects what the reality is out in the workplace. That also will help to serve as a bridge to get people into those jobs, because if you've got a pipeline of individuals that are going to be in these careers and trained up and ready to go because that's what the corporation or the business wants, you have a slightly higher likelihood these people are going to be employed. So we've come up with this program now for the last 2 years. We call it the TAA Community College Fund. This campus has been a recipient of that. I think it's $5 million to have these kinds of partnership. And it isn't just in manufacturing, it's also in healthcare, IT, but also the emphasis is being placed on those skills that you don't need a 4-year degree. You can get maybe a 2-year college degree or even a 1-year degree or even one that is offered through an apprenticeship program. So those are efforts that we're looking at now. We think we can meet the challenge. We're seeing it happen across the country. I talked about that in my speech about the campuses that I visited that are doing that right now. But the biggest fear right now is businesses not coming forward and talking to us, talking to the workforce investment boards, or talking to the community colleges. So I want to challenge you in the audience to please do that, because unlike some people who know what the advantage is, there's a competitive advantage. If you can work with us, we're going to help train those people. We have funding for it, and we want everyone to take advantage. The goal here is to put people back to work.
Morgan, you talked about linemen, you talked about folks to work in the gas company. Right. Do people still want to do that kind of work?
Yeah, and my view, I think people want to work and support a family and be in a good industry with a long career ahead of them. I think that's fundamental. To me, one of the challenges I've seen firsthand is, and I believe we need to go back to the school system of educating kids on what it is that education, the goal of education. To me, you know, the goal of education isn't just to attend school for the longest period of time. It's actually to have something constructive come out of it, that you can support a family and actually live a good and a prosperous life. And I think somewhere along the way, you know, we've defined this education success as a college degree. And I think for some people that's absolutely right on target. What I get frustrated with is when I've got good trade jobs that I know pay well and people are sitting there with the need right here in the community, and we don't have the workforce. Most of our workforce that we're seeing through the community college are some of those folks who went through the four-year college and got their master's degree and ended up with nothing, no job at the end of that, and now they're coming back the second time around to get retrained on a technical aspect. It feels like to me, if this country, and particularly this region, because I mean we care about the country, but we really care about the region here. We're sitting on this opportunity with industry and manufacturing, as well as what's happening with energy, and we need to educate our kids around all the different career opportunities that are here. And for a lot of them, it will make a lot of sense to be on the trade side of it, learning a trade early on with the good computer skills and communication that Mike talked about, but literally being prepared for those opportunities, which we all know are here and are going to be here for a long time.
Tell me about the folks, though, looking for apprenticeship opportunities right now. Are you able to more than fill apprenticeship classes? Or do people have the skills they need to become a union electrician here in our region?
I'm going to have to see the second part of your question, no, in the sense that I think the public school system, there's been some difficulty with the applicants we see as far as their math skills. And stepping back to your previous question also, you said, are there still people that want to do this work? There's absolutely people that want to do this work. There's guidance counselors, though, and parents that push them to not go to anything but a four-year school. And then what we see is they come back 2 or 3 years later when they weren't successful at college, and then they come back and apply to get in the apprenticeship. But what we're seeing from the kids who are coming right out of high school is a lack of math background.
And yet, and you think about people who have a predisposition against it. In the case of the IBEW, you've been real pioneers with your partnership with CCAC. You can't become a union electrician in Pittsburgh without getting a degree, right, from CCAC or having...
Well, every applicant, every apprentice that's taken in has the opportunity to go through and get a associate's degree in electrical construction technology.
Yeah. So it's not an either-or. For those parents who want their kids to go to college, it's not necessarily a choice they have.
No, we think it's a great opportunity. They pay nothing for this education. As a matter of fact, we provide their tools. We pay them when they go to school for the first 2 years. And at the conclusion of 5 years, you get the degree and you're a journeyman wireman and there's a job.
And Secretary Solis, you said these are the kinds of jobs, too, that are going to be the most in demand, not just here, but across the country?
Well, they are. And in fact, a lot of manufacturers have told me that. They tell me, Secretary Solis, we don't need a four-year college engineer. We need someone who's a technician, who has a greater level of technical expertise that you can get at an apprenticeship program or a community college for a shorter period, compressed time. But one thing I want to say is that these jobs, we have to do a better job of marketing them, because I know of some women who were in the IBEW program who were formerly nurses, who actually found that they wanted a new career because they were laid off and actually got into this program. I met some women in Miami, in fact, and she told me that she has a pension plan, she has retirement, she can control some of her hours, she can put away for her family, and she can send her kids to college. She was already 50 years of age, African-American woman. I thought, wow, you have a lot of guts, because you're in a program also that seems not always to be welcoming to women and other people, but now is the time to do it. And her salary was way far and above what she was getting as a nurse. So that just tells you there's a lot of myths, and we have to bust those down and get more people to talk about the trades, and that they're lucrative paying. You could make anywhere from good salaries, anywhere from $50,000, $70,000 to $150,000. I think to myself, Jesus, how come I didn't know that when I was a kid?
Well, I wonder, and I'll ask both Mike and Morgan to follow, because one of our questions was from someone in the audience who said, can you speak to women regarding the opportunity in green jobs? And I think you just did. There's a lot of money to be made with benefits and everything else. But at the end of the day, is your industry welcoming of women in those kinds of jobs? And Mike, is your industry, you know, is it welcoming as well? Morgan?
Yeah, I mean, we have, I think overall we have an education process. I'll call it education in that enlightening people as to the opportunities that we have in this region and enlightening people as to the significance of it and the longevity of it. I mean, these jobs are going to be here and we're going to need them for a long, long time. The jobs are not going to leave. For us, the challenge is both getting women into these non-traditional women roles, right? I mean, so there's some of that. Our other challenge is, just to be frank, is minorities. We have a difficult time getting minorities into these types of programs as well. And, you know, we look for partners. I mean, that's really with leadership and community college help to really try to educate both. And I say educate, I mean enlighten people as to the opportunities that are truly here.
Mike, from your standpoint, many women going into the electrical work these days?
No, we have to do significant outreach to attract women. We also have to do outreach into the minority community. So another issue we do have, which I'd acknowledge, is retention once women come into the trade. Your career in the trade is a succession basically of 8-month-long jobs. You're lucky if you get on a 2-year or 3-year job, but the average duration of a job is 8 months. So you've got to be of the mindset that you're working every day to work yourself out of a job, and that you're going to be working somewhere completely different. I may be working inside here at CCAC 1 month, and next month I might be outside in a ditch running conduit. So you have to be prepared. We can't select who gets what job. Everybody gets the same level of training. The next name that comes up on the list goes out to the next job, no matter what it is.
Yeah, I was fascinated. I was out at the ribbon cutting for the new Range Resources headquarters in Washington County, and the guy running Range had nothing but wonderful things to say about the building trades here in Pittsburgh. And he said, you know, they brought this building in under budget and they finished it ahead of schedule. And one of the fellows from the Carpenters Union says, yeah, that's what we do. We've learned that we're going to deliver at that level, right, even though it means we're going to put ourselves out of work faster. Essentially, we have to keep looking for new jobs, but that's how we demonstrate the value proposition. But it was great to hear from a guy from Texas talk about how great it was. Well, let me, another question from the audience here. Any guess, and maybe this was for the Secretary, what the overall estimate is of the amount of job growth in the next decade or so for green jobs?
Well, you know, there was a study put out by RAND that was published, I think, less than a year ago, and there are, I would say, well over 2 million jobs that have already been created just in the last 2 years. And the growth is in areas, not just in, I'm talking about my state, California, but it's not just in the Southwest, it's also in places here, in places right here in Allegheny County where job growth is growing in particular sectors. And a lot of it is driven by entrepreneurs, by business, by manufacturers who are saying, we're going to make an investment down the line. And it isn't, when you think about a green job, it all isn't just about renewable energy. It's also about conservation, and it's about reusing materials. There's a whole market just in rebuilding and restoring and conserving old buildings. Think about all the housing stock you have. People are refurbishing. There's a great investment. So I see construction coming back, but I see it new, revised with new technical skills. And yes, you do have to have more math skills. We have to absolutely ask our high school, our secondary schools, and community colleges to make sure we do enough to actually provide the tools and mentoring so young people and also people of color and women are attracted to these fields. I mean, women can do the same jobs as men, but also you have to have a welcoming environment. And we're funding programs where you have pre-apprenticeship programs, and we're asking community-based organizations, faith-based groups to help us organize, to connect with the neighbors, to connect with the communities, to find these people who want these jobs. A young person who's right now, parents aren't working and they know that the likelihood of them finding a job is going to be hard. If you sit down and tell them there's opportunities in these apprenticeship programs, let me tell you, you get their attention right away and they're not playing on that little circuit board at home. They finally they start to pay attention.
Question for Morgan. I'm going to ask Morgan and Mike on this one, because the question is, are you aware that the building trades have the people trained already for the jobs that are being created in the natural gas industry. This presupposes we have a sufficient workforce. Do we, based on what we're seeing develop and where we're headed in terms of natural gas?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think early on in the whole Marcellus, there was a strong belief that everybody had Texas and Oklahoma license plate that were doing work. And what we've seen now is, I think, more and more of that's obviously being done by folks here. And for us, as I said to you, we're going to be hiring, and most of the gas utilities are going to be hiring hundreds of folks this coming year. And there are people qualified and ample to do that, and particularly with the community college program that we started here. My fear is I've got a lot of people who are going to be retiring because the companies haven't been hiring, and we haven't had that group of people coming into the trades that you can't become a tradesman overnight. The best, you know, with all the training and the great programs we have, the best training is for somebody to work alongside somebody for 5 years at least to learn that skill set. And when I first came to Peoples Natural Gas, the first thing our employees asked me is, could you give us an early retirement? And I said, no, I need you. And not only do I need you to do the work, I need you to train the people that I bring in here, because it really is, it's a skill set that takes it's a craft that takes a long time to really perfect. And my fear is not so much the immediacy of, you know, the skill sets of people we have today, but it's really just building that, rebuilding what we used to have here, which is that a trade job was an important job, and it was something that people took pride in, and it was something they aspired to do.
Yeah, and Mike, there's been so much talk about the cracker. We've already heard it mentioned today. Shell's chosen a site, as a preferred site, has yet to actually greenlight the project, but there's been talk that if they do, it would take 10 to 12,000 construction workers to build it. You got that many people just sitting around waiting for work right now in southwestern Pennsylvania?
We don't have that many waiting for work, fortunately, but we do have the ability to train, as I mentioned, with very little lead time.
So you think we can get there? You think that kind of number could be hit?
Yes.
If we had to?
No, absolutely.
With all the apprenticeship programs from all the trades and
Yes.
the capacity exists?
Yes. Yeah, and going back to your earlier question, you had mentioned Range Resources before and their experience using the building trades. Well, as the gas industry started here, the majority of the people who were working on it did seem to be from Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana. And when finally an opportunity presented itself for our people to get on board, the company saw the value in our people. They did have advanced training. I got comments back from people that our electricians were more like engineers, so they no longer had to go out for design work. The electrician right on the site could redesign what needed to be installed, and so they saw value. They could put it in immediately, get it in quicker, even though our guys, because of the tax structure here and the cost of living in this area, the wages for our typical electrician are higher here than they are in Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas.
A question about how veterans fit into all of this. Actually, Secretary Solis, there's been a series running in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette about veterans mustering out. They've been driving trucks, they've been doing heavy work, but they don't have the right certificate, they don't have the union card or whatever, and they're coming back to Pittsburgh and to the United States, and they're unemployed, and they can't get work, they can't get the training, they need a job. What's the Labor Department, what's the country doing to make sure the veterans coming home can get to work as quickly as possible?
Well, what we do have up is a internet site, you know, a website where veterans can go online, and it's called, you know, like mynextmove.vets, and it's available on the DOL website, and it's good information. We've also boosted our standards to help people, the returning vets that are coming out, to get what we call a gold standard certificate. That guarantees them 6 months of intensive services, job training, coaching, resume writing, counseling, whatever it is they need to get back in, or to figure out if they want to go to a college or a vocational school to get training, because much of that's going to be paid for by the federal government. And we also work in partnership with some of our friends in the trades, the helmets to hard hats. I know you guys have heard of that program. I think it's fantastic, because before a veteran, not a veteran, a military personnel is leaving, or before they exit the military, can actually get training like at Camp Pendleton to learn electrician skills. Once they get out, they can go home. Oops. They can get out and go home, to their state and continue in that journeyman position. So this is a wonderful program that some of our labor unions, I have to give them credit, and labor management coming together and are funding this. I want to see it at every base. I want to see it in every community. So I hope people will listen and help to support that, both of these efforts.
One of the programs we're really proud of here in our region, because I know the Labor Department helped to fund it, is something called Marcellus ShaleNet.
Yes.
And we've I think at this point almost 1,000 people from around here have been trained and placed in the natural gas industry, and dozens of them are returning veterans. So I guess it's another one of the models, right?
And my Assistant Secretary Jay Notes came out early on, I think last year, to help explore this, to see how we could put our resources together here and focus in on this growing industry. That's exactly what we want to do with the Department of Labor. Come in from the ground up and hear it from the locals as to what the priorities are.
I got another, these are actually two questions on two sides of the same issue for, I think for you, Secretary Solis. One is, let's see, the Obama administration policies are killing the coal industry. What do you say about policies and how that's affect coal miners? And yet the other question is, can you tell us more about what your department is doing to address the environmental crisis?
Well, I'll tell you, it's amazing that during this recovery period, the number of jobs that you see growing consecutively have been in mining and in refineries. Those jobs keep growing. So regardless of what the rhetoric is out there, those are the two areas that continue to grow. So I don't think that there's a whole lot of validity in when people say the president doesn't care about these jobs. He does care. I care. A job, a good paying job, is what we want. The other side of it is that we want to make investments in renewable energy. So let's make it more efficient to do this exploration, to do it based on good science and good safety protections. We want less injuries. We want more people to work freely so they can live longer and work at these jobs longer. But using new methodologies, like I said earlier in my opening statement, we talked about new carbon materials that can be produced here with raw materials and can save a lot of money in the long run and create new jobs. Those are the kinds of investments that this president and I want to make. So we just need to hear more of these ideas and put them into practical application. That's why we're funding community colleges. That's why we're funding our institutions of learning, so that we can know the science and keep the science here. I'd much rather have those jobs stay here in the United States as opposed to bringing in, foreign workers to come and do the job.
Well, Morgan, I wonder too, you're a fossil fuels guy and gas these days, but in your electricity days, you burn plenty of coal too. Right. What do you think about the future for that industry, especially here in our region, given everything that's going on?
I mean, it's been a core of this region. It's been a core of this country, and it will continue for as long as I can imagine. I think what we're seeing with all of this incredible, plentiful growth in natural gas reserves that I don't think 10 years ago any of us could imagine exist in this country. And I think even the president has come out and supported this as an alternative way to expand the energy use in this country to take advantage of that resource. And I think that's going to be the focal point of, as we increase the amount of energy needed to provide growing manufacturing, whether it's U.S. Steel, the cracker facilities, or other new manufacturing opportunities. We're going to see a lot of the incremental energy, both from alternative energy, but also taking advantage of the natural gas that we have.
I'm not really sure who should grab this one, but this is actually a question from the Northside Fair Housing Coalition, an agency that says it has recruited over 25 workers for Marcellus jobs and green jobs. After completing the training, no one is employed. So is there some kind of mismatch going on in terms of placement? Do we need to do a better job there? Are trained people falling through the cracks? Anybody have a sense?
I think the Workforce Investment Board should be made available to help them identify where those jobs are, because it could just be that there isn't enough access, appropriate access, for the kinds of skills that these individuals have earned. Could be also transition into, say, something maybe slightly different, but yet they have the basic qualifications to do other jobs. So I think that we have to do a better job in the workforce system to help identify where those job openings are and encourage businesses to hire people up also through what we call on-the-job training. We actually help to pay, or we will be using, for example, people that are on UI, unemployment insurance. We're going to actually allow them to use that money to go get hired up at a business. So maybe they can work for you for 6 months. They get a subsidy through us, But after they get their training, you get to keep that person. So isn't that a good way of also helping to meet the needs by getting some folks involved in that manner? I mean, that's something that some states are using, and we want to ramp it up and do a little bit more of that.
And Bill, you know, with the conference, and I know you're a big part of the strategy, is as energy companies in this region, we are working together to promote those job opportunities. And you know the number of job vacancies we have in the energy field today. And so it's hard for me to imagine that we don't have the right jobs available for those folks. But you know, there are resources for people like that to go to find the jobs that are out there.
And if I could just add, there are 3,000 one-stop centers around this country that we fund, and there are a whole lot of them here in this state. And people just need to go online, dol.gov, look up your nearest one-stop center, go online, find out where the job is, the location. They'll tell you what the skill set you need. And if you already have them, fine. And it'll tell you exactly the amount of wages that will be paid, the salaries for these jobs. It's all free, and it's online.
Well, and one of the issues maybe peculiar to our region, way beyond the scope of this panel, is just our transportation structure and network here in the region, and whether people who need the jobs can get to where the jobs actually are, given especially the rural nature of much of the natural gas exploration that's going on. So it continues to be a challenge, kind of the mismatch of our employment base. Several different questions, I assume are all from students, about the kind of advice you would have for me, a student, if you were starting out today, and obviously going to community college or wherever, what industry would you choose, where would you work, and what do you need to know to capture that opportunity? Mike, I'll start with you.
Well, the advice I've given my own children, I have two that are out of school and one recently, she'll be graduating in May, is be prepared for any opportunity. Look ahead, get the education you need, get the training you need, and then I tell them, get into an occupation that you love and make money at it, basically. If you want to work with your hands, the trades is a great occupation. I myself wish I would not have gone to college first. I wish I would have gone straight into the trades. Not that my college experience was not valuable in some way, but I really had my interest sparked when I got into my apprenticeship. I was here at night at CCAC taking classes, and immediately the next day, working with what I had learned and reinforcing what I had learned at night in the classroom. So my advice would be, you know, follow what you really are interested in. Be prepared for opportunities and make money at what you love to do.
Okay.
Why don't we go here first?
Okay, Morgan, give you another second to think about it. It's a big question.
We'll save the best for last, I'm sure. I mean, I think I agree with Mike. I mean, you have to find what passion you have inside. I mean, if you like what you do and you enjoy coming to work, you're going to perform better and be more successful. I think this is an incredible region for young people. I think this is a place where almost any interest you have, whether it be medical, educational, technology, or the trade jobs that we're talking about, those opportunities are going to be here for you if you're prepared and you're come to work and you're passionate about what you do and you want to do a good job. I mean, companies like Peoples Natural Gas and Duquesne Light and many energy companies who are going to be here for the next 100 years need young people. And so I think the challenge is actually up to you to find what drives you and what will make your passion, because this region is truly a growing region, and our best days are ahead of us. I know that.
I would just say that according to what I see on a monthly basis where jobs are growing, the healthcare industry has taken off, and it's going to continue as we live longer. There's going to be more opportunities and choices for people to get healthcare at home or different services that are going to be available. I also think that the IT industry, computers, and not just sitting at a keyboard, but actually knowing what goes forward in developing the technology and all that is very important. And also looking at what I said earlier, the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And women and minorities shouldn't be afraid of that, because sometimes people tell us, oh, forget it, that's not for you, you can't do it. Well, I have a story. I have two younger sisters. They're 10 years apart from me, and they asked me that same question. What career should we go into, Hilda? Because you've been the first one to go to college. And I said, you know what? Try engineering. And they both looked at me like I was crazy. Well, they stuck with it. They weren't they weren't highly, how could I say, apt to do all the math and the science, but they stuck with it. If you stick with it, and then you learn to like it, I guess, they eventually got their degrees. They graduated both in engineering. One's a computer engineer, and the other one is a chemical engineer. And they both work in very lucrative positions, high level. They're one of the few women in their fields, but it doesn't mean we can't do it. And I think if you really believe in something you care about, you're going to do it. And that's really where you need to set your goals at. If you like it, you want to do it, put your efforts there, and get around people that can help you, mentors, internships, very, very important to have. And I know that the campus here can help set those things up. And those are the kinds of things the president wants people to be exposed to.
Very good. Actually, I want to try to consolidate two questions for Secretary Solis. And these are really, we've talked a lot about young people, and yeah, the world's your oyster right now, right? Pick something you want to do, get the skills you need, be willing to work hard, and literally, the outlook here, especially in our region, is very bright. But what about others, the 50-somethings folks, who've been dislocated, might have gone to work, and then they can't seem to get hired anywhere because there's all these young people coming along. And also the challenge of black and brown unemployment disparities. Are the doors as wide open? Are the opportunities as great? And what is, in particular, the Labor Department doing to deal with these issues?
Well, it's interesting. The president has an initiative that looks at, it's called, career pathways. And it's looking at particular communities where you see a high number of people that are faced with high rates of unemployment and low education or literacy skills. And there'll be an opportunity for us to make these investments around the country where these kinds of characteristics exist. We're going to be making these investments. We're going to partner with our work board investments. We're going to also partner with community colleges and with community-based groups because we know we have to do a lot here. And some of it is also asking our local businesses to help set aside slots. One of the things that we're pushing right now, in fact, as we go into summer, is this summer youth initiative to hire people up, give young people a chance so that they can have on their resume that work experience. It's so valuable. I mean, how many of you here can remember your first job, that summer job, and how good you felt about learning that someone cared about you, and at the end of the week or 2-week period, you could come home with a paycheck and feel, hey, I'm getting value, not just myself, but the person who's working with me in terms of the work I'm learning. All of that helps to build character, discipline, and especially for minority young youth. They need to have that experience. So I would urge you to go online, dol.gov, summer youth, initiatives, get on, put up the jobs that you have available. Let's give some young people these jobs. Let's give them the foot in the door and give them that opportunity that some of us have already had.
Just a couple of quick questions, and then we'll wrap things up and let everybody have a few minutes to meet the Secretary outside during the reception. A question for the Secretary, your feelings regarding pressure to expand right-to-work legislation across the United States.
Part of my belief is that people should have the ability to be associated and collectively bargain to be able to do that. I think that's really important. There you have it. There you have it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. You clearly have this crowd. What more need she say? Well, yeah, I kind of expected that reaction, but somebody wrote the question down. I'm just doing my job. I'm trying not to edit the conversation, just to shape it. A couple of last comments from students in the room. As a Job Corps student and a future CCA student, I just want to thank you for all that you've done and your support to our programs here. It was an honor to be here today from Tabitha Workmeister. And also as a future CCAC student, I just wanted to say thank you for coming down here and for supporting the Job Corps program. If not for this opportunity, I don't know where I would be. So thank you from Aaron Morris.
Thank you.
And with that, thanks to all of you, to Morgan O'Brien, to Mike Dunleavy, of course, to Secretary Solis. And now I'd like to ask Dr. Johnson back for a few closing words of comment.
Let's extend another round of applause for Bill. He does an absolute marvelous job of moderating the panels and handling the questions, and certainly we all benefit from his coordination and leadership in that regard. But let's extend another round of applause to our panelists, Secretary Hilda Solis, Mr. Morgan O'Brien, and also Mr. Mike Dunleavy. Wow.
You did a great job. Thank you so much for being here.
Secretary Solis, this is the kind of reception that you can anticipate anytime that you're in greater Pittsburgh, and more specifically at the Community College of Allegheny County. Why don't you just sit for a minute, because we need to present our honored guests with some gifts. But before I do, let me once again recognize the trustees of the Community College of Allegheny County. I'd like for them to stand and receive a well-deserved round of applause. Members of our foundation board, members of our foundation board, members of our alumni association as well. It's obvious that the opportunity that we have to create this vibrant workforce will depend upon collaboration among all the community colleges within our region and their partners. So today with us we have Dr. Joe Forrester. You want to stand? Who is the president of the Community College of Beaver County. And also to my right and in the rear is Dr. Nick Newpower from Butler County Community College. Thank you so much for being here. We have with us also one of our a distinguished member of the CCAC family, whose husband is well known to all of us, the Honorable Tom Forster, who served as a long-term member of the county commissioners. And Georgie, would you please stand? Ms. Georgie Forster, who is with us today as well. Yes. As you know, Tom, along with the Honorable Kay Leroy Irvis, are considered the bulwarks of community colleges in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This building is named after Mr. Forster, and as you know, our brand new Science and Technology Center is named after Mr. Irvis. And how great, how good is that? That's just fantastic. It really is indeed. So with the gifts to all of you, thanks you once again for your presence here today, and on behalf of a grateful Pittsburgh community and CCAC, we want to present to you these small tokens of our esteem. It doesn't matter. They're not gender biased or anything like that. I just want to make sure. Madam Secretary, thank you so very, very much. Morgan, my good friend, thank you so very, very much.
Yep.
And to Mike, thank you very well. Thank you. The reception will be held in our lobby area. Be patient, it's very, very small indeed, and there's a lot of room to my left as well. So with that, let me thank all of you once again for being here. To my good friends and my colleagues, thank you for your support, and I look forward to seeing you at our next lecture. Thank you.